Hello, YouTube modeling community. This is Rusty Rotor with a what's on the bench. Congratulations to all the winners. So far, we have till about 8 o'clock tonight for you guys to get the acceptance email sent in to me. 2 of you already have. So, congratulations to those 2 gentlemen. I'll be getting the prizes out tomorrow a.m. Because, of course, post office ain't open at 8 o'clock tonight. So what's on my bench? I did do a little work on the diorama. We'll take a look at that here in a minute. Today's focus really is on, this is a side project. I know a lot of you guys, deal with that and you don't get to spend a lot of time. This week I did have some downtime to actually kind of get into it, we got a lot done. We are almost into the final assembly stages, which is, it's pretty good. It has been a quick build, but I didn't have to modify a whole lot to make this work, and it was able to go, like I said, the more you do it, the better you get at it. Got me some new, more manly readers yesterday, and I picked up a few things for the diorama. We'll take a look at them here in a minute. First, my niece, the one that's doing my editing, or she will be doing my editing again as soon as her computer's fixed. Meanwhile, she helps me out with the snazzy thumbnails and other things. Again, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the subscriptions. It means a lot. We've reached that big milestone that we've been trying to reach. Truthfully, we should have reached, in my first 6-7 months, the way it was going, but, powers that will be intervened. But we're there now. So what do we do now? Well, we just keep going forward with how we're doing things, what we're doing, trying to be informative to you guys, bringing you some new tips, tricks, whatever you want to call them. My next build is always the thing you guys get to see. Projects, we've got the one diorama, and we have 2 right behind it. We will take a break in between each one because I have to do the bases, get that figured out, layout. Then we'll just get right into it. One being the gas station. That's a pretty big build. There's a lot of vehicles that's got to be built to go along with that diorama. Gas or Nights, same way. A lot of vehicles. A lot of figuring. I still need to find more pictures. So, they're there. And we have Ghostbusters. So we have 3 more. Ghostbusters is kind of, I'm waiting for my son to get the room and it to be put in a safe place out of 2 little children's hands and cats and so on and so forth. So we're giving them a little time, and we're keeping that at the back of the burner, so to speak. I have started on it about a year or so ago. I'm going to still be working on it because there's a lot of configuration of things. It's just we're not worried about getting it exactly done until he has the safe place to put it. So we'll work on it little by little. As other builds, Shorty, I kind of ran into a little issue. It's not a big deal, I don't think. So it is a 4x4, but it is a leaf spring 4x4. The kit I had didn't have front leaf springs. So I'm going to try a trick on curving the rear leaf springs down, because I have pins in there, if you remember. Here, it's right here in my reach. You can see I've got these little white pins. This sets my ride height that I need to be at. The front actually needs to come down just a hair more. It sits a little, it probably naturally, the engine's in the front, so it's going to sag a little more, but we want to get it as close to level as we can. So we just a hair. But anyways, these set our ride height, front and rear. So you can see how straight the factory springs are. We have to curve those springs down to meet the diff. And we have to add springs in the front and curve down and hit the diff. So I was thinking about curving these if I can. I know that I'll have to cut the spring from the shackle and then carefully cut off the top spring, or the top leaf, right here where my finger meets, if you guys can see, on both sides. Same way on this side also, and I'll probably have to do for the front as well. And I'll have to scratch make those pieces longer, so when the curve is in, that they'll carry back up and I can connect them back to the shackles up here on the side of the frame, both front and rear. It does change the front a little bit, as far as I don't think we're going to have an issue the way it sits, that the spring will sit right here, right close to the diff cover there, and kind of solder right there, so it's not a big deal. But yeah, I'm planning on having to do the front, so that's going to take a little time engineering, or if I can find a set of springs that are already, you know, I'm going to look on Colts and then get somebody to print them out if I can find the with enough radius in them. If I got to trim them back, it's not a big deal. I can always cut them back to fit in between these two shackles and then tie them into that and make it look the part. But she's on hold a little bit until I start figuring that out a little bit more. I got all the pictures I need now, thanks to Justin. So Justin, if you're watching this, thank you very much. It's going to be a beautiful build. So, side project, and we got sideways. See how that works? All right. So my niece that's doing my editing. This side project it was a gift from them to me, and I'm gifting it back to them. Her, that being her and her boyfriend, Austin. He had picked the model up and thought about building it, and looked at it and said, "Nah," you know. And that's how a lot of people are. It's how you get into this hobby, is whether you keep pushing or you just say nah. So it's the 67, or the newer AMT 67 GT 350 Shelby. Beautiful car. I love this car. And I have this kit, but it's not the same as this kit. There is differences, which is cool. For one, the trunk opens. I'm giving away a lot here, so you guys can see already. So I hinged it. Worked perfect. I used that method I've found on another video. This piece is already removed, guys, just so you know. But there's a piece underneath it, and if you put this over top of it, it kind of saddles exactly where it needs to be. It's almost like an alignment tool. So I taped it really well, and I went underneath. I set my glass down in here to make sure what distance I had from the back edge of the glass to the trunk. I didn't want it to, interfere with either one. And it's saddled right there. You can see between the orange hinges, that's the tube, and it's super glued in. I put a nice little bead down first, set it, and then I kind of coat it over top of it and down the sides, and I just let it go for 24, 30 hours before I touched it again. Laid the hinge, onto the trunk. I marked it with a yellow mark. Yellow, I don't know. It's a permanent marker, but yellow. That way I know where my little tubes went. I cut my tubes to length, and I put those in there, and my goal was to do exactly like you see. The orange hinges to match the body, and then it blacks out into the mat that's up underneath the trunk. And they give you a pad that goes down inside on the chassis, simulated carpet in the trunk. So you really don't have to worry about, a whole lot of anything as far as adding detail into the trunk. It's good just the way it is. Shelbys aren't blacked out in the back, but that's okay. This is our rendition, how we're going to make it look. So we blacked it out, and we'll chrome the bezels. And the cap that'll go on here is chrome, and then the gas cap up here. We painted the ledge black to simulate the rubber and down in the gutter. It's been kind of rust-proofed or whatever, but it's custom paint, so it's not going to be exactly the same as the factory. While we were at it, I was like, what else feature can I add to this without doing a whole lot of work? And I was messing around. So am I going to leave the hood in place? What am I going to do? And it occurred to me I had room to make a hood prop, a functioning hood prop, by the way. And it goes down, and I added a little piece of styrene. It rests on right down there in the corner. So we got our hood prop. We got our grills painted. Now these will all be gloss when they're done, nice and shiny. Same way with the back, and that's what I wanted. Got down here in the lower gill painted. These bezels get painted chrome. That little emblem platform gets painted chrome, and then there's a decal to go on there. I scratch built the chin spoiler. And all I did, guys, was lay a flat piece of styrene on the bottom, and then I kind of went back and made marks back here by the beginning of the fender wells, or the front fender wells. And then I just started carving back until I got to the inside lip right here where my finger's rubbing. And then I laid it flat on the table and I traced around the front of the car, around the front bumper. And then I added 1/8 of an inch to that. And that makes it stick out. You can see it's not real far, but it gives it that aggressive stance when it's there. And then I just bevel the edge by sanding it both sides and bring it around, sanding the face and underneath to give that little beveled edge. Now in the real world, this would be all scuffed up from hitting curbs and coming down out of parking lots, but you know, ours is a show rod. So we started with black primer on this one because we're using a true pearl paint. It is PPG Pearl Orange. I'm sure it's got a different name, I just don't know it. We sprayed the whole body with about 4-5 coats of that, thin layers, and then we shot Candy Tequila Sunrise over top of it. And what we wanted to do was achieve some kind of a fade, dark areas, lighter areas, and we did that. If you're looking around it and you notice that some of it's darker, and it's because it is. In the shadow areas, it's darker. Back sides of the fenders. And it all fades to the back where the quarters get lighter and lighter and lighter. And on the top, a little darker, lighter. So, the way I do that is I spray a base coat on the whole thing. And then after tack coat. And when I come back, the second coat, I lay a little heavier in the areas that I want to achieve it to be a little darker. Because if you look, the hood's darker too. I'll set it in place for you. You can see the hood's darker. It's dark, dark, dark. A little light here, right where the sun would reflect off. A little lighter right here where the sun would reflect off. A little darker. Down. A little lighter, lighter, lighter. And then top edge is really light. Same ways on the quarters. Goes from darker, you can see it gets lighter. You can see it darker in here. We faded from the front to the back, kind of as it went around. And it turned out really nice. Yeah, there's a couple little flaws in it, but I mean, overall, the paint was really rough, so I wet sanded with 3000 only. I didn't start with anything else. I just went with 3000 because if you burn through anywhere, you're done. You can't just go back and touch that up. I did burn through one little spot. It's hard to see right there in front of my finger, a little tiny black dot. But in the scheme of things, you can't see it. It's no big deal. Oop, wrong with that. We detailed underneath the hood. That's done. We got our headliner painted. I'm not worried about getting gloss on it. I can come back through and touch it. It's just flat black, so none the wiser. Underneath is all detail painted the way it needs to be. So we're ready just to kind of rinse this off, let it air dry, and we'll put our decals on. The paint's super smooth now. So I can put our decals on. We're going with the white GT350 stripes. It'll be all OEM stripes like they're supposed to be. We're using the decals. The decals are fantastic looking. I don't know if you guys have built this kit yet or not, but when I look at quality of decals, I mean, those are super. Look how shiny those are. Separated nice crisp edges. I was thinking about going with the gray stripes, and I'll show you why here in a second. But we inevitably stayed with the white. 1 second, guys. Alright guys, sorry, that was a doctor's appointment. Had to take that one. But yeah, I'm really impressed by the quality of decals. The only thing I'm not impressed with is they didn't give you anything for the wood grain on the interior, no gauge clusters. No, they give you a crap ton of Shelby decals. You know, the emblems for the grill and other spots. Just a ton of those and a ton of license plates, which is cool. But I mean, you only needed 2 license plates, and you could have put the gauge cluster on there at least. So I got to go hunting and find gauges that'll fit in these bezels. You know, now you may say, Rusty, you know, your builds have a way of going crazy sideways. Yes, they do. My craziness sideways was making the trunk function, making the hood prop work. We achieved those very nicely. If you look at underneath the hood, I drilled a little hole, kind of on an angle, so when this is sitting in there, I can bring the hood prop down and set it right in the thing like it's supposed to. So now, and I will take this to shows, I can display it just like that. We're not putting a lot underneath the hood, just a few goodies. We're going to run the kit heater hose or radiator hoses. We are going to run heater hoses back. We are adding a fuel filter, plugs and plug wires, and distributor, Morgan's Automotive, of course. We used a Morgan's Automotive Carter AFB Carter carburetor, more detail to it. We got our fuel filter in, bent at the angles we need it to go and run. This will go down to fuel pump, wherever the fuel pump would be. I'm not sure. I think that is the oil filter. We use the MCW Ford engine blue. You know, a little glossy. I put a little too much hardener in it, but that's okay. And then we dehydrated it for, like I normally do, 12 hours, and next morning it's perfect. But it does give it the black highlights down in the cracks and everything else. But everything else in the kit we're using, the pulleys, the exhaust manifolds, the exhaust, we're not changing any of that. The 4-speed transmission with a nice separate linkage, so you can really, I could duplicate this in real wire if I wanted to and use the brackets and do all. I'm thinking about it, but I was like, no, I'm not going down that rabbit hole. But yeah, so this is all ready. Like I said, just a final little bath, let it air dry, get our decals on. We'll put that in the dehydrator overnight, and we'll let it go. And then the next day we'll be ready for clear. We'll start with 1 coat. We're going to use a little more leveling thinner. We're going to see what that looks like. And you don't want to get too much. You don't want it to eat into the paint. But just enough to where the clear will lay smooth without minimal wet sanding. If that first coat looks good, we will scuff that coat, and then we'll finish out with 3 more coats of clear, each time adding a little more leveling thinner. So the final result is hopefully a nice smooth finish, nice shiny. It'd be showroom condition as a show car, because it does have a custom paint. Few modifications. Change the rear plate, like the older or the newer 70 Mustangs would have black in back here. We added the chin spoiler to the Shelby. It didn't have one. It does now. We did modify the suspension a hair. And when I say a hair is, first we did was put a drop of super glue underneath each part of the diff, and then the bell housing back here, and we clamped it down. And as you can see, that it's just a hair away from the frame. And then we heated the springs and just let it sit there and relax. Then we popped it loose, and it pulled away about 1/8 of an inch from the frame, both sides. So I know we're sitting level, and it lowered the rear. That means I had to cut out the inside of the fender wells to allow, if you look this way, you can see almost a 1/4 inch of space I gained for the tires to sit back in there a little bit, because we are using a lot wider tire. The front, we clipped the top of the spindle and clamped it to the A-frame. We left the bottom alone. we needed to modify the top to raise the tires up in there, and we did that. We had about a heavy 1/8 of an inch, so now they're right at the fender well. We also sanded the inside of the fender wells on the body to alleviate a little of the pressure there. Worked perfect. We're going to flock the carpet, and there's a piece inside here. I don't know if you can see it right here. We'll flock this little area here too, and then after that cures, we'll start assembling the interior. Interior, you say? We still got to paint our pedals. We got to get our gauges in there, and I got to figure what color I'm going to do the background here. If I'm going to come in and do a wood grain, I'm thinking about it very seriously. But we got, everything's clean where it needs to be. I'm not worried about that little bit in there, because whatever color the gauges are is what I'll paint that first, and then we'll put our gauges in there, and then we'll fill the lenses. Same way with the little gauges up in the top there. Our indicators. And we got our switches down here, headlights, heat controls, our stereo, our glove box. We got to clean off our black wash on that. Our door panels, we just went with the OEM look. Everything's just trimmed out like it would be. We just now need to do something in this panel here, whether it's wood grain or what. Just haven't decided yet. Seats, like I said, they're all done in OEM style, but wrapped in a Italian leather, real soft sable interior. And all the interior was airbrushed this time. Something like this, we got to come back and clean off our black wash. And the steering wheel's wrapped in the same leather. We're running a black headliner, black carpet, just to break up the monotony, because this is a super light color. You look at it, against this, it's a really nice color match. So, what do we do with tires and wheels? You know me. I cannot not put something on a car. I refuse to put a kit wheel on the car that is outdated unless I'm building that kind of car that requires that era of tire and wheel. Our goal was newer style. These are by Ryan Jones, C-Force Model Works. These are the back tires. See, nice fat meats. This isn't really a pro touring. This is more of a resto mod. So I'm going to put it in a genre. Those are the two back. And there's the two front. These wheels are basically 3 colors. The wheel center is bronze by Splash. And then I hand painted all that little black trim in there. And then we varnished them with a satin finish. And then the sleeves are done in chrome. That's small toe. Same way with the knockoffs. And that was airbrushed. And then we just let them sit, and we put them in as Matthew would say, in the incubator for 12 hours at 122 degrees. And they were good to touch the next day. Now, I still handle them a lot because Malta still has a habit of kind of rubbing off and then turning gray, more of an aluminum look. And we want those to be as bright and pretty chrome as we can. But I'm telling you what, I say it 100 times, I drop everything. Nothing sets your ride off more than the right set of wheels. That's about, I can't say that. These tires come and they set right like that, right at the top of the wheel well. I get it in there right, like right there. Whoops. Yeah, like right there. So they sit perfect in the rear. And they don't stick out. They just, If you look down the body line, they're right at the outer edge of the wheel well, which is perfect. The front tire, when we modified the suspension, we had a gap about like that. I was like, nope, that's not going to work. So by dropping those spindles, it put the front tire right there at the top of the wheel well. Worked out perfect. So it's going to have a nice, it's not lowered real far, it's just enough to fill the wheel wells with tire. So, you guys can kind of see. We also, another body mod, the hood is not opened, so I opened the hood so you can see in there. You that don't believe me, see, now you can see skin through there. Model cars, you can see they're opened. Hood pins I was going to do, and I was like, you know what we're going to do is we're going to drill a tiny hole at an angle down in there, and I have a hood pin kit still, and we're going to stick the pins in to these, tie little wires, and then we'll drill little holes back here in the corner and stick the wire through, and we'll, I don't know, bend it over on the inside here and glue it. I don't know. We'll figure out how to attach it. That way then you just pull the pins out, and then you can open the hood and display it closed or display it open. Because we are using the kit engine. I don't know, I got to read it. I never read the instructions unless it's absolutely necessary. If this is a 302, 400, I don't know. It's not a big block, I can tell you that much. Cobra. So if you guys know right offhand, just leave it down in the comments. It's in the instructions, but I'm not worried about it. But it's going to turn out to be a very, very nice model. So I told my niece, say, hey, I need this to be able to go take to shows, and she said that's fine anytime, which is cool. But I've had a blast with this, so there's nothing wrong there. Another thing we picked up, we got to zap it. Even though I picked this up. This stuff works really decent, especially if it's tiny little things, because the resin cure is really good and crystal clear and hard. Water effects it's perfect for. Bigger areas, it has a tendency not to set up 100%. It'll set up about 80%, and the rest will stay kind of gooey, which, on the downside is not a bad thing, especially like on the Mustang, the Pro Street one. I glued the glass in using that, all the glass, and it actually peeled off and cleaned off very easily without any chemicals, water, or anything like that. I just used a dry paper towel and worked it back over and rubbed all the excess off, and it was perfect. They'll put that glass back in its proper kit. So when I go to build that Mach 1, that one's going to get a body kit from Black Box STL. They've got that new 71 trans kit out, and I think I'm going to get the file for that, and I think that's what's going to go on that one. I really like the look of it. There's a few things I think I'll change. I don't like the vents in the top of the fenders. I think I'll either opt those out or change it altogether or smooth them over. Don't know yet. Something for down the road. You hear the noise in the background. The 3D printer. So I bought a new build plate. I checked my old build plate, and sure enough, it was warped, cupped really bad. About a 1/16 of an inch. Tight in some areas, gaps here and there. So somehow, and they're notorious coming out of the factory with a warped build plate. But I kind of looked at it, and I may have looked at it wrong and said, oh, it's fine. It's got to be something else. Hard-headed, makes a soft ass. It doesn't mean we're 100%, but I did print something small. Was successful. Thank God. There was one little flaw in partial of the print, so we got a little caution now. So I'm running a second test print to see how it does. If it does okay, then I know now I can start making some adjustments in the slicer and to the printer itself and kind of work those issues out. And hopefully in the next few months I can be up and running and doing some things and you know, I don't know. Knock on wood. So that's where we're at with the side project. That's where we're at with Shorty, the villain. Let's take a little roll here with me. Get over here. I forgot the stand, so now I gotta go back. So let's just say rest right there for a minute, and I'll be right back. And we can get this video wrapped up. Again, I can't say it enough. Thank you to everybody. You guys have been awesome. The best group of followers, subscribers, whatever you want to call yourselves, I could ever ask for. A community better than I could ever believe. So, you know, it just wouldn't be so without them. So a few things we picked up last night. These little containers. I was looking for these at our dollar store and they didn't have them. These are perfect when you're making or mixing up dirt and rocks, the different sizes and different types of dirt to keep in, and you can label them or just write on them with a Sharpie, because alcohol will take that right back off, and keep track of what it is. And I can put these in a bigger container and I keep them nice and organized. So we were able to find these at the Dollar Tree. They were $1.50. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 10 of them for $1.50. They're perfect for, you know, putting grass and stuff like that in. We're going to a different Dollar Tree that has more stuff, my wife was telling me. But they do have landscaping stuff. There's some floral moss, which you take this out and you guys can airbrush this, different shades of green, brown, yellow, whatever. You can make shrubs out of it. You can make your own homemade trees out of it. You can use it just for moss on the building, which is what we're going to be using. I'll take this out and I'll dye it 2 different colors, and then I'll mix it all back in together. That way it'll give it the light and dark variant. $1.50. Can't beat it. Another hack I watched a guy make using tea bags. Just the tea out of the tea bags. I got a jar to keep it in. You take that out and you divide it in half, and you make one shade of green and one the other shade of green, a lighter and darker shade. And then when it's all dry, you put it all back in the jar and mix it together, and then you'll sprinkle this on your vines and it'll look like ivy. The problem is, guys, I'm not thinking when I'm watching a video. I'm so in tune to it. I don't think to write down the link of the channel. So I do apologize. But man, if you just go out there and you look DIY ivy, you'll find this guy's video on there. He's got a ton of other videos on how he scratch makes a lot of the stuff that I'm learning how to do right now. You know, here it is in this little container. I just got to label it now. We got pretty little purple flowers, light and dark. So when it's on there, it gives it the feel. And they're all dried out now. I need to regrind it to chop it up a little finer, just from where it's stuck to each other. And then we have this that we can make something out of in the future. I'll just put it in there for now. There'll be a different color in the same container right next to it, because it is 2 parts. And then I can put on top purple flowers. We are making red, pink, yellow, and white. So, you know, we'll probably put the red with the purple, then we'll do the pink and the white next to each other, and we'll have a container with the yellow, and we may do some green just to mix this in with. And that may be what this side's for. We may take half this amount and mix it in with green and put it over here. That way then we can take and we can add the foliage along with the flowers. So we got that. Found this up in the kitchen. Don't tell my wife. Never uses it, except that it's got a little cutting board on it. And it's got a very sharp blade, which you can sharpen. I thought it'd be good to cut balsa wood, just for quick cuts. You know, when I got it marked out, so I just grabbed it. She can have it back if she needs it. I don't think I've ever showed you this. I bought this a long time ago at Hobby Lobby. It's a Zona. It's a little miter box. It's got the things and the angles. This is a little saw. This saw never goes dull. I've cut plastic with it. I've cut metal with it. I've cut wood with it. Still works great. But, you know, if you know anything about wood tools, there's little slots in this. And it's perfectly straight, square. Doesn't look like it on camera, but it is. I put a right angle to it. It's square. Then we've got our 40 to 45 degree angles both directions. So when I start making my door frames and window frames, this is key because I want everything miter cut. So we have that. We've already had that. It's nothing really new. What else? I thought I got something else. Oh, my readers. I think that was it. So yeah, that's kind of where we're at, guys. Diorama, I'll turn you around. Oh, we did get. Oh, wait a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself. Most all the people for right now are painted. That's my next goal is on this, because I already have files of people, is going in and arranging some people. They're a little more detailed. So like I said, the less detailed people will be towards the back and not seen really well. Where's the building at? Here we go. We did make an executive decision to make a change on this building a little bit. As you know, I got to get a hold of Ernest before he gets carried away, if he's even started yet. But these are going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 independent pieces for the railing. We're going to build a pergola above this whole balcony. So I got to put posts, and we'll put beams, and then we'll put the top rails. And that's because that vine will be growing out of the planter, probably right here in the center, growing up over the face of it, across the top and across the face of the building and down with all the pretty flowers on it. But this will be a little pergola, and like I said, we'll still have the little tables and chairs up here and some people sitting on it. But that's a change we made, and I'll have to get him. Actually, it's what I need to work on today, so I can get him the measurement changes. That's kind of where we're at. And another thing, the little fall-off pieces of sponge, these work great for stippling. So if you're doing any rust effects or weathering, little green moss, they're not dense. They're very, you get up close, you can see, there we go. The holes in it, that makes for a great little stippling tool. And I did it on the little roof we showed you before. And if you get up close, there you go, you can see all the stippling and how it look. Now it's all dried and everything. Look how rusty that looks and accurate. Copperish and rusty. It turned out really, I'm really, this little tiny piece, I'm really proud of this because it turned out really good. It's a pivotal piece in my head because of the point of view looking down the diorama. This was very noticeable, along with the gentleman just standing in the back corner in the shadows. We call him Shadow Man. Stupid, I know, but, hey. But, I don't know if he lives in that building or not, but he's kind of trying to get out of the picture from the guy that's taking the point of view picture. And he's standing there kind of in the background. So we changed him a little bit from what's in the actual picture, but he's the one, he's Shadow Man. And then all I saw was this little roof. I was like, how cool is that? That every building's unique and different and architecturally different, but yet kind of the same. That's the best thing about this diorama. Everything's kind of the same, but uniquely different on each building. And they're almost like apartments, even though these have been these people's houses for generations. Families have grown up and raised there and moved away, and grandkids have come back and taken over, or kids have, and they just pass the dwelling down through the generations, which is awesome. That's why the architectural buildings over there are so magnificently beautiful, because they've been preserved for hundreds and even thousands of years. And that's the best thing about our history, is we should preserve it, no matter good or bad. It doesn't matter what it is. It's still history. It's part of our history. It should be preserved. Now, whether that's displayed in public or in a museum, but I don't believe in destroying it and ridding of it, because it gives a bad taste in your mouth. You know what I mean? It's still history. It still should be preserved one way or the other. I don't agree with the negativity. I don't agree with the positivity on the negative side of it, but I agree with preserving it because it is history. So, and that's the best thing about these buildings. Now, keep in mind, guys, we'll wrap this video up here. Architecturally, I'm trying to really replicate a lot. Like these old Italian buildings, their electrical lines ran across the face of the buildings and then poked in through a hole to feed, when electricity came about, to feed power into these buildings. And they were plaster walls, so they'd pop holes and drill holes and plaster back in and put the outlets in, the switches and light fixtures and all that over course of years. So we're going to, that'll all be visible on here. Ernest is 3D printing like two sets or 3 sets of power boxes, and out of that we'll branch out and we'll have the wires and straps going across the face of the buildings, feeding power to each building to simulate all that. Power lines overhead, it'll come down and feed the power boxes. We'll have little birds sitting on power lines, on rails, and on the ground eating whatever. People feeding the pigeons, the birds. It's just a great community. Everybody lives in, everybody loves, and contributes. Contributes in the flowers, the things that make everything look beautiful. All the foliage everywhere, and pruning it and watering it, and all the stuff to keep everything, alive and going good. That's kind of what this is all about. It just happens to be centered around Cecilia the villain, which is the focal point of the build, is the actual model. Because that's what I am. I'm a model builder. But it just pays homage to the owner of the truck, being Italian, a little piece of Italy. We're trying to replicate and put into it. So, other than that, we got one more trip to the Dollar Tree. Hopefully I can get some other random stuff. It's going to work great. And we'll save a buttload of money. There is some things I will have to buy, but all the stuff will be used for all the dioramas, no matter what it is. So, yeah, that's where we're at. So, again, thank you to all the subscribers, past, present, future. You guys have done it. Now, the next mile mark is 1,500. The big mile mark will be 2,000. And the faster we get to those two, the faster that we can do another giveaway. Does not mean that there won't be a little teaser pleaser in between them. But that's where Canada and our European followers will get to have an opportunity to get a little something by the teaser pleasers. It's less expensive for shipping. It's easier to manage and get something to those great people up in Canada and Europe and Australia. I got followers from the Netherlands, Australia. I mean, I'm talking way out in the outback too. From the way they talk, they're way out there. We got Germany. We've got, I think I have one from Newfoundland. Where else? There's a couple from China and Japan. And then all over Canada. There's a few others. But, that kind of opens up the possibilities for them to have a chance to win a little something and get something they normally would cost them, quite a bit of money to get. So we are going to do that. And we'll do that a couple times throughout the course of time here. But that's it, guys. It's Friday. It's the weekend. Get some modeling in. I will do a little video before long of using your pastel chalks. These assorted colors. These work fabulous for weathering, even rust effects. I use lighter fluid and a knife, and I scrape this off into a little dish. And I add just a couple drops of lighter fluid to it. I mix it around, and it'll make like a wash. And then I will come back with dry powder with a brush and just flick it on, and we get a really nice looking result. I learned that technique also by watching fellow modelers out there, as you can too, by subscribing to the channels and going on a journey with them and watching all their different techniques. You can learn a lot, guys. It does apply to model cars and trucks. Especially if you ever want to go the route of a diorama or a little vignette. So, yeah, that's it, guys. I'll keep you posted on the 3D printer. I'm not holding any faith in it right now. I'm kind of glad that the first print did okay. Nothing majorly wrong, but it did fail a little bit. But I think that can be in an adjustment on my end. So we'll do this one. We'll kind of review it, and then we'll see what we need to do. If it's something else we got to purchase, then we'll just have to wait and save our pennies. We still ball on a budget. Remember, if I ever ask, that's my number one, that's my theme, balling on a budget. How can we play in this hobby and do all the things that the people with deep pockets do, whether it be by sponsors or they're just independently wealthy, or that's just their job and their money goes right back into their business, which I totally get all those aspects. We've had a sponsor before. It was I can't explain to Mark how much I appreciated him for that time. It brought things to the channel that I, as you can see, I've not brought since, because I can't afford to do that and keep maintaining it and doing it without me having to go monetized, me having to do a Patreon to recoup some of the money. I can't just keep putting money out, and nothing in return. It just doesn't work. So enough about that. Just know, you guys spread the word. Share the video with somebody. May get them interested in modeling. Oh, another thing, we bought these little lights. I'm going to light them up and see how they look. But it's a pretty long strand. So I figure I may use these for the interior lighting, the back lighting, versus using my motherboard and all my switches. That's actually for Ghostbusters. So we're going to see how this works. It was cheap. It was like $3. So, nothing more. I'll use it on something else. And I think that's it, guys. So you guys get some modeling in. Dive in, guys. It's a great hobby. It teaches you patience, perfection, technique, hand-eye skills, and how to, when you're living a stressful life, to kind of just leave that alone and go into a world that you can dive into, whether it's painting little minis, like, little miniature figures. You're doing a full-blown diorama, 8 foot by 10 foot of this war scene or a city. Those branches off into other categories too, architectural, so on and so forth, landscaping. But, model cars and trucks have a way to, for just, even if it's for 20 minutes at a time, to zone and push all your problems away and just focus and relax and enjoy what you're doing. Any form of art, whether it's painting a picture, sketching, drawing, you're building, you're sculpting, any form of it is almost mesmerizing and relaxing. You wouldn't believe the stress that you can relieve by taking 20-25 minutes a day and having a little hobby. It's better for your mind, your skill set, being how you use your hands, thinking, troubleshooting. You run into problems all the time. You got to solve that problem. It helps you in the real world, in your job, your family function and skills, and your duties. As a father, as a husband, caretaker, whatever it may be. All these things help. It keeps your mind sharp because you have to pay attention, and you're paying attention to detail. So therefore, it's not detailed within a writing. You're looking at detail that's in the piece that's in front of you. The ridges on this cap, I can pull those ridges out and make them bigger than what they are. The shadows on how the light hits the bottle, all those things is, artistic and design, and what you do with that becomes a creativity, which in return can turn into a piece of art, or your first time out may turn into a piece of junk. But there's a learning curve in here also, guys and gals, and you only learn by doing. This is hands-on doing. Knowledge is great. We picked up a book. It's not the book I thought it was going to be, but the artist in me, it draws me in there. It says miniature painting, which has me and the lady at Barnes & Noble is like, hey, there we go. And it has nothing to do with painting minis. It's miniature pictures, small drawings. But it's very informative on shadowing, highlighting, all that. So we're going to keep it, and we're going to start a little library on books with different techniques in them, different artists, anywhere from sketching and drawing all the way up to just painting minis, dioramas, that kind of stuff. Because anytime I'm stumped on something, well, how can I do that? I have a library to go to and I can look at and say, books that can be expensive. I've got one in my cart that's $150. I think it's a 3-book thing. So that's $50 a book. But it's made by AK, and so I know it's in depth and detail on painting, figures. And that's what we're trying to do, trying to hone our skills. And the way you can do that is sometimes save up your money and buy a book, spend a little time reading it, and then practicing. How do you practice? Go buy a bunch of cheap craft paints. Make sure they're acrylic, apple barrel, ceramic coat, and Deco Art. What's this brand? And Anistas, I've found are all really good. They're really creamy. They're really smooth. They mix up very well. They thin down very well. Light coats, just as in using a Vallejo. People that are assholes and elbows deep in these paints, I could be. Don't get me wrong. Have no clue because they down and they diss these all the time. But these really, if you properly treat them, you put them on a wet palette, you add a couple drops of thinner to it. This paint thins down very nice, can be airbrushed very easy, can have a very nice finish on it where you can't tell that I didn't use a Vallejo or a Splash or Gravity or Tropical Glitz or anything like that. Don't throw wind to these. It takes practice of getting used to how to use them, how to set your air pressure, how much volume you got coming out of your airbrush. You can literally brush paint this on, a thin down version, prime first, of course. You can brush this on, and you'll probably do twice as many coats, and then I'd wet sand down, not so much wet sand, but dry sand starting with 3,000 and going up to 12,000, and get a very smooth finish on it and clear coat it. And you can use 2K over this stuff. I would use a water base first to get used to it. They've got high gloss, they've got matte, satin, you name it. Especially Createx in the UV protection. It lays a nice finish over this, guys, and once you polish it out, it looks just as good as 2K. It's just if you want to put in the work. But it's a cheap way to learn how to use the expensive stuff down the road that you can save your money for and buy. That's the balling on the budget. We learn how to use cheaper products and master those, so to speak, into the quality of the expensive stuff. Same way when I buy stuff in bulk. It's not exactly like the high dollar aftermarket part, but it's very, very similar, and it works just as good. And I've won awards using the same crap that I buy for pennies on the dollar as somebody would spending $50, $60, $100, $150 on the aftermarket parts. So I'm not boasting. I'm proving a point. You can build an award-winning model using the balling on the budget method and be proud of yourself because you did it, and proud of yourself for the amount of money you saved and what you put your mind through of research, practicing, applying the methods, getting them to where they work just as good as the top dollar stuff, and being able to achieve a really good finish. So it's all about. It hones your skills. So enough about all that, guys. Like I said, it's the weekend. You guys have a great weekend. We'll be back one day next week with a video. Probably back to normal, 1, maybe 2 videos next week. We will be working on the villain next week. Where I can leave the Mustang alone for a while. And then I got to fiddle with some parts around the shop and work out the issue with the leaf springs for Shorty. And then we'll be going elbows deep on that. By then we'll have the side project done. And the focus will be on Shorty and the villain. When Shorty, of course Shorty will get done before the villain. When Shorty's done, we're going to move to the 53. We're going to get the 53 done. And we'll get it in a display case. It'll probably go to a show if it turns out nice. And then we're going to get the Ring Brother Charger down. We're going to finish it up. Oliver Biden's, we're going to get it down and finish it up. These little projects that are almost done, we're going to get them finished up this year while we're working on the bigger projects. So, till then, guys. And my MGSF, the surprise, has been delayed a little bit, but he said he's pretty much back on course. A release date will be yet to be determined. I will keep you updated on it. It is fantastic. If I was going to promote anything in my heart, and it's not just because I'm a fan of this type of car, it's badass. I think a lot of people will want this, whether they build it right away or not, but you'll want it, and it's going to drive you to want to do it right away. That's how exciting it is, at least to me. So we'll see how you guys feel. Let me know down in the comments what you think about everything. We're not really definitive on any one particular thing. The Mustang is quite a bit of ways, and that's only a week's worth of work, guys. So if I devote a lot of time on a project, I can get a lot done, and I'm at the point where I can set it to the side, and I know I'm just steps away from final assembly. And that's when we will put it to the side, and we'll be back. Hopefully, we'll be starting to add some details to. We got to figure out a name for this little village. You guys got any great names for Italian villages? Drop them down below. Help me out here. Throw me a line. I like to have a name. The truck is Cecilia the Villain. The name of the village. Most people have a little name of their little village. They call it kind of like a street name. We need one of those, because on the light post, I'm going to scratch build a little sign and have a street name. And whoever gives me the best name for the street that fits the atmosphere and the surroundings that surround us, which would be like Tuscany, Italy, or any old village in Italy, a suitable name. That street name will go on there, and your initials will go, period, and then your initials will be on that street sign. Just kind of rewarding, putting you into there a little bit. You put in the work. Give me 20 different names. First 20 names I'm going to take, and I'm going to write them down. I'm going to tumble them. I'm going to draw a name, and that's the name that's going to go on the street, or the street sign. That will be visible when you look at the diorama from this face of it. The point of view, you won't be able to see it, but facing it this way, the way it'll be displayed at a show, you will be able to see it. So your initials will be up there on that street sign. So let's just say if it was Market Street RW. Market Street, period, RW. That will be the name of that street. That's not the street we want to use. That's not suiting it at all. It's not a market. The market's down in town, so... Excuse me, guys. My nose is running 100 miles an hour. Drop it down in the comments, guys. Come on, get involved in on this. Doesn't require a lot. A suitable Italian name for a street. Dead ending into this little village. Little courtyard. Villa, whatever you want to call it. Each one of these is kind of a villa, and there's a courtyard. But they sit on this one street. That's the street we need. Give me a street, guys. At least 20. Out of 1,001 subs, I should have at least 20 subs that can get involved and put a name of an Italian street down here. We'll write them down. We'll draw one. That'll be the winner, and the person that gave it to me, their name will be on there. And we'll put their initials at the end of the street. And that'll be visible on the display. So let's do it, guys. Enjoy your weekend. This is Rusty Rotor. I'm out.